Stop explaining yourself. They already made up their minds about who you are, and no amount of explanation will change what they have chosen to believe. You have been exhausting yourself, trying to convince people who are not interested in understanding. You have been wasting precious energy, attempting to clarify your intentions to people who prefer their assumptions. You have been sacrificing your peace, trying to correct misconceptions held by people who are comfortable with their misunderstandings. But I am telling you today, enough. Their opinion of you was formed long before you ever opened your mouth to explain. Their judgment was made before you provided a single piece of evidence to support your case. Their conclusion was reached before you offered any clarification about your motives, your actions, or your heart. They decided who you are based on their own experiences, their own fears, their own limitations, their own inability to see beyond the surface. And nothing you say will penetrate the wall they have built around their predetermined beliefs. You think that if you just find the right words, if you just present the facts clearly enough, if you just explain your perspective thoroughly enough, they will finally understand. But understanding was never the issue. Willingness to understand was the issue. They are not confused about who you are. They are choosing to misunderstand who you are. There is a vast difference between someone who lacks information and someone who rejects information. You cannot educate someone who has already decided to remain ignorant about your true character. Stop trying to prove your worth to people who have already decided you are worthless. Stop attempting to demonstrate your integrity to people who have already concluded you are deceitful. Stop working to show your kindness to people who have already determined you are cruel. Stop striving to reveal your authenticity to people who have already labeled you as fake. Their minds are made up, and your explanations are falling on deaf ears, closed hearts, and hardened minds. I need you to understand something crucial. Your worth is not determined by their understanding. Your value does not depend on their validation. Your identity is not defined by their interpretation of who you are. You are who I say you are, not who they think you are. You are valuable because I created you with value, not because they recognize your value. You are worthy because I declared you worthy, not because they acknowledge your worth. The energy you spend trying to change their minds about you is energy stolen from your purpose, your peace, your progress. Every moment you invest in explaining yourself to people who are determined to misunderstand you is a moment diverted from building the life I have called you to live. Every word you waste trying to convince them of your good intentions is a word that could be used to speak life, hope, and encouragement to people who are actually listening. You have been operating under the false belief that you owe everyone an explanation for your choices, your actions, your decisions. But explanation is not obligation. Justification is not requirement. Clarification is not debt. You do not owe anyone an understanding of your journey, especially those who have no intention of walking with you on that journey. You do not owe anyone insight into your process, particularly those who are not invested in your outcome. Their misunderstanding of you says more about them than it says about you. Their inability to see your heart reveals the condition of their own heart. Their refusal to acknowledge your growth exposes their own stagnation. Their insistence on viewing you through the lens of past mistakes demonstrates their inability to believe in redemption, transformation, and change. Their judgment of you is actually a confession of their own spiritual poverty. When someone chooses to misunderstand you despite evidence to the contrary, they are revealing their own character, not yours. When someone insists on believing negative things about you despite your efforts to show them otherwise, they are exposing their own heart condition, not defining yours. When someone refuses to see the good in you, despite clear demonstration of that good, they are advertising their own spiritual blindness, not proving your lack of goodness. Stop giving them power over your peace by constantly trying to win their approval. Stop surrendering your joy to their opinions by endlessly seeking their understanding. Stop sacrificing your progress to their perspectives by repeatedly attempting to gain their acceptance. Their approval was never necessary for your success. Their understanding was never required for your happiness. Their acceptance was never essential for your fulfillment. You have been treating their opinion of you as though it were my opinion of you. You have been responding to their judgment as though it carried the weight of divine verdict. You have been reacting to their misunderstanding as though it could somehow change the truth of who you really are, but their perspective is limited, temporary, and often wrong. My perspective is complete, eternal, and always accurate. The people who truly matter, the people whose opinions actually count, the people who are genuinely invested in your well-being will take the time to understand you. They will ask questions before making assumptions. They will seek clarification before drawing conclusions. They will give you the benefit of the doubt before passing judgment. They will look for the best in you rather than assuming the worst about you. But those who have already made up their minds, those who prefer their assumptions to your truth, those who choose misunderstanding over clarity, those people are not your audience. They are not your judges. They are not your evaluators. They are not the ones whose approval you need to seek or whose understanding you need to earn. They have disqualified themselves from having a voice in your life by refusing to listen to your voice in theirs. Stop explaining yourself to people who are not interested in understanding you. Stop justifying your actions to people who have already decided to judge you unfavorably. Stop defending your character to people who have already chosen to attack it. Stop trying to prove your intentions to people who have already assumed your intentions are malicious. Your explanations are pearls being thrown before swine, wisdom being offered to fools, truth being presented to people who prefer lies. I am calling you to a higher way of living, a way that does not depend on human validation or human understanding. I am inviting you into a freedom that comes from knowing that your identity is secure in me. Your worth is established by me. Your value is determined by me. When you know who you are in me, you stop needing to explain who you are to them. When you understand your worth in my eyes, you stop seeking validation in their eyes. The time you spend explaining yourself to people who have already made up their minds is time stolen from people who genuinely want to know you, understand you, and support you. The energy you expend trying to change closed minds is energy that could be invested in open hearts. The words you waste on deaf ears could be speaking life to listening souls. Stop pouring yourself out for people who have no intention of receiving what you are offering. Their predetermined opinions about you are not your responsibility to change. Their closed minds are not your assignment to open. Their hardened hearts are not your project to soften. Your responsibility is to live authentically, to walk in integrity, to pursue your purpose with passion and dedication. Your assignment is to be who I created you to be, regardless of whether they understand who that is or not. You cannot control what people think about you, but you can control how much power you give their thoughts over your peace. You cannot determine whether people will understand your motivations, but you can decide whether their misunderstanding will derail your mission. You cannot force people to see your heart, but you can refuse to let their blindness dim your light. Stop explaining yourself and start expressing yourself. Stop defending yourself and start developing yourself. Stop justifying yourself and start enjoying yourself. Stop trying to convince them of who you are and start being confident in who you are. Stop seeking their approval and start walking in my approval. Stop chasing their understanding and start resting in my understanding of you. The people who matter will understand without lengthy explanations. The people who care will seek to understand even when explanations are complicated. The people who love you will choose to understand even when understanding requires effort. But the people who have already made up their minds will not understand regardless of how clearly you explain, how patiently you clarify, or how thoroughly you justify. Their resistance to understanding you is not about your ability to communicate clearly. It is about their commitment to maintaining their preconceived notions. Their refusal to see your perspective is not about your failure to present it properly. It is about their determination to hold on to their prejudices. Their insistence on misunderstanding you is not about your inadequacy in explaining yourself. It is about their investment in remaining ignorant about who you really are. You have been assuming that misunderstanding is always innocent, that confusion is always accidental, that wrong conclusions are always the result of insufficient information. But sometimes misunderstanding is intentional. Sometimes confusion is chosen. Sometimes wrong conclusions are preferred because they serve the purposes of those who hold them. Some people need to believe negative things about you in order to justify their own behavior toward you. When someone treats you poorly, it becomes easier for them if they can convince themselves that you deserve poor treatment. When someone betrays your trust, it becomes more comfortable for them if they can tell themselves that you are not trustworthy. When someone abandons you in difficult times, it becomes more acceptable to them if they can believe that you are not worth standing by. Their misunderstanding of you serves their conscience, not their confusion. Stop trying to correct misconceptions held by people who need those misconceptions to feel good about themselves. Stop attempting to clarify your character to people who require character assassination to justify their actions. Stop working to prove your worth to people who need to believe you are worthless in order to sleep peacefully at night. Their misunderstanding is not ignorance. It is strategy. You owe no one an explanation for living authentically. You owe no one a justification for pursuing your dreams. You owe no one a defense for following your calling. You owe no one clarification for making choices that align with your values rather than their expectations. You owe no one an apology for growing beyond their comfort zone, for changing beyond their approval, for becoming more than they thought you could become. The freedom you are looking for will not come from their understanding. It will come from your acceptance that their understanding is not necessary. The peace you are seeking will not come from their approval. It will come from your recognition that their approval is not required. The joy you are pursuing will not come from their validation. It will come from your knowledge that my validation is sufficient. Stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, and start surrounding yourself with people who are committed to knowing you. Stop wasting words on closed minds, and start sharing thoughts with open hearts. Stop exhausting yourself trying to convince the unconvincible, and start investing yourself in people who value what you bring to their lives. Their predetermined opinions about you are not prophecies about your future. Their closed minds about your potential are not limitations on your possibilities. Their hardened hearts toward your dreams are not barriers to your destiny. What they think about you has no power to change what I think about you. And what I think about you is the only opinion that truly matters. You are not called to live your life in the courtroom of human opinion, constantly defending yourself against false accusations, endlessly explaining your innocence to biased judges, perpetually justifying your existence to people who have already decided to find you guilty. You are called to live your life in the freedom of divine acceptance, knowing that you are loved unconditionally, valued immeasurably, and approved completely by the only judge whose verdict actually counts. Stop explaining yourself. They already made up their minds, and their minds are not your responsibility to change. Your responsibility is to guard your heart, protect your peace, preserve your energy, and pursue your purpose with unwavering focus and unshakable confidence in who I have created you to be. Let them think what they will think. Let them believe what they will believe. Let them say what they will say. None of it changes the truth of who you are in me. Their opinion of you is not your identity. Their understanding of you is not your reality. Their approval of you is not your security. You are who I say you are. You are worth what I say you are worth. You are capable of what I say you are capable of. Stop explaining yourself to people who are not interested in understanding you, and start living confidently in the truth of who you are in me. The right people will understand you without explanation. The wrong people will misunderstand you despite explanation. Wisdom is knowing the difference and responding accordingly. Stop wasting your precious time, your valuable energy, and your beautiful words on people who have already decided to misunderstand you. Save your explanations for people who deserve them, your justifications for people who value them, your clarifications for people who genuinely seek them. You are free to stop explaining yourself. You are released from the burden of convincing everyone of your worth. You are liberated from the exhausting task of defending your character to every critic. You are delivered from the impossible assignment of gaining approval from every person. Your worth is established, your value is secure, your identity is confirmed. Stop explaining yourself and start living yourself. They already made up their minds, but their minds do not define your reality. I do. And in my mind, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, perfectly loved, and completely accepted. That is the only explanation you will ever need. The moment you stop explaining yourself is the moment you reclaim your power. The instant you cease justifying your existence is the instant you step into your authority. The second you end your defense of who you are is the second you begin to live confidently in who you are. Explanation seeking is a form of emotional begging. And I did not create you to be a beggar at the table of human approval. I created you to be royalty in the kingdom of divine acceptance. Your constant need to explain yourself reveals a deeper issue. You have been measuring your worth by other people's understanding rather than by my unwavering love. You have been evaluating your value based on whether people comprehend your intentions rather than on the fact that I fearfully and wonderfully crafted those intentions into your heart. You have been determining your significance by whether others approve of your choices rather than by the reality that I ordained your choices before the foundation of the world. When you live from a place of divine security, explanation becomes unnecessary because your confidence does not depend on human comprehension. When you rest in my approval, justification becomes irrelevant because your peace is not tied to people's perspectives. When you walk in the assurance of my love, defense becomes pointless because your identity is not up for debate in the courtroom of public opinion. The people who truly belong in your life will understand you without requiring exhaustive explanations. They will give you the benefit of the doubt when confusion arises. They will seek to understand your heart when your words are misinterpreted. They will look for the good in your intentions when your actions are questioned. These people deserve your time, your energy, your explanations when they are genuinely needed. But those who have chosen to misunderstand you, who prefer assumptions to truth, who are more comfortable with their prejudices than with your reality, these people have forfeited the right to your explanations. They have disqualified themselves from access to your inner thoughts, your motivations, your heart. They have chosen ignorance over knowledge, misunderstanding over clarity, judgment over grace. I want you to recognize the difference between people who temporarily misunderstand and need clarification, and people who permanently misunderstand and reject clarification. The first group consists of individuals who genuinely care about knowing the truth about you. The second group consists of people who are invested in maintaining lies about you. Wisdom distinguishes between these two groups and responds appropriately to each. For those who temporarily misunderstand, a gentle explanation may be appropriate and fruitful. For those who permanently choose misunderstanding, explanation becomes an exercise in futility and a waste of precious resources. Learn to discern which group you are dealing with and adjust your response accordingly. Not everyone deserves your explanations, and not every misunderstanding requires your correction. Your explanations should be reserved for people who have proven they value truth over convenience, understanding over assumption, relationship over being right. These individuals have demonstrated through their actions that they are interested in knowing you rather than in judging you, in understanding your heart rather than in condemning your choices, in building bridges rather than in constructing walls. The enemy wants you to spend your entire life explaining yourself to people who will never be satisfied with any explanation you provide. He wants you to exhaust yourself trying to prove your worth to people who are determined to find you worthless. He wants you to sacrifice your peace on the altar of public approval, to trade your joy for the temporary satisfaction of being understood by people who are not even listening. But I am calling you to a higher way of living, a way that recognizes that your value does not fluctuate based on other people's opinions. Your worth is not a stock price that goes up or down depending on market conditions. Your significance is not a political campaign that requires constant polling to determine your standing. Your identity is not a product that needs to be marketed to consumers who may or may not be interested in purchasing. You are my child, created in my image, filled with my purpose, destined for my glory. That truth does not require explanation, justification, or defense. That truth simply requires acceptance, first by you, and then it will become evident to anyone who has eyes to see and ears to hear. Those who cannot see it are not blind, because you failed to explain it clearly enough. They are blind because they have chosen blindness over sight. Stop trying to force people to see what they have determined not to see. Stop attempting to make people understand what they have decided not to understand. Stop working to convince people who have already concluded that they do not want to be convinced. Their blindness is not your responsibility to cure. Their deafness is not your assignment to heal. Their hardness of heart is not your project to soften. Your responsibility is to live authentically, love genuinely, and pursue your purpose passionately. Your assignment is to be who I created you to be, regardless of whether others understand that person or not. Your calling is to walk in integrity, speak truth in love, and trust me with the outcomes of your obedience. You cannot control whether people will receive you, but you can control whether you will remain true to yourself. The freedom that comes from stopping your endless explanations is not the freedom to be rude, unkind, or uncaring. It is the freedom to be authentic without apology, genuine without justification, true to yourself without explanation. It is the freedom to make choices based on my guidance rather than on people's expectations, to follow my leading rather than human opinions, to pursue my purpose rather than public approval. When you stop explaining yourself, you will discover that many of the people who demanded explanations were not actually interested in understanding you better. They were interested in maintaining control over you. They used your explanations as ammunition for future attacks, as evidence for their predetermined conclusions, as fuel for their gossip and speculation. Your vulnerability was not met with understanding but with manipulation. These individuals did not want explanations in order to love you better. They wanted explanations in order to judge you more thoroughly. They did not seek clarification to build relationship. They sought information to build cases against you. They did not ask questions to understand your heart. They asked questions to find holes in your story, inconsistencies in your narrative, reasons to dismiss your worth. Stop providing ammunition to your enemies disguised as friends. Stop offering evidence to prosecutors, masquerading as supporters. Stop sharing your heart with people who will use your transparency against you. Not everyone who asks for an explanation deserves one. Not everyone who demands justification should receive it. Not everyone who insists on understanding is entitled to it. The peace you will experience when you stop explaining yourself to the wrong people is indescribable. The energy you will recover when you cease justifying yourself to judgmental people is immeasurable. The joy you will rediscover when you quit defending yourself to people who are determined to attack you is overwhelming. You will wonder why you spend so much time, so much effort, so much of yourself trying to win over people who never intended to be won. I have given you everything you need for life and godliness. I have equipped you with wisdom to make good decisions. I have filled you with my spirit to guide your steps. I have written my laws on your heart to direct your choices. You do not need human approval to validate divine leading. You do not need earthly understanding to confirm heavenly guidance. You do not need temporal acceptance to authenticate eternal purpose. The opinions of people who do not know your heart, who have not walked your journey, who have not experienced your struggles, who have not shared your prayers, who have not witnessed your growth, These opinions carry no weight in the economy of heaven. They are like whispers in a hurricane, like shadows in the sunlight, like lies in the presence of truth. They may seem loud and imposing to human ears, but they are silent and powerless in the realm of divine reality. Your worth was established before you were born. Your value was determined before you took your first breath. Your significance was confirmed before you made your first choice. Nothing anyone thinks, says, or believes about you can change these fundamental truths. You are loved unconditionally, accepted completely, and valued immeasurably, not because of what you do or how well you explain what you do, but because of who you are in me. Stop explaining yourself and start living boldly in the truth of your divine identity. Stop justifying your existence and start celebrating your purpose. Stop defending your worth and start demonstrating your value through your actions, your character, your love, your service. Let your life be your explanation, your character be your justification, your fruit be your defense. The right people will see who you are without needing lengthy explanations. The wrong people will misunderstand who you are despite clear explanations. Wisdom is knowing the difference and responding appropriately. Save your words for those who value them, your explanations for those who deserve them, your justifications for those who truly need them to understand and love you better. You are not called to live your life in the courtroom of human opinion, constantly on trial, endlessly defending yourself against charges brought by people who have already decided to find you guilty. You are called to live in the freedom of divine acceptance, knowing that the only verdict that matters has already been rendered in your favor. You are loved, you are accepted, you are approved, you are enough. Stop explaining yourself and start living yourself. They already made up their minds, and that is perfectly fine. Your mind is made up too. You know who you are in me, and that is all the explanation you will ever need.